is a proud institution with 27 years of excellence, producing thousands of global professionals with autonomous status, NAC accreditations, ND accreditations, and a strong placement record of 11,000 plus students. Necn continues to set benchmarks in the quality technical education. The institution is steadily stepping forward on its journey towards attaining deemed to be university status, reflecting its vision for the greater academic autonomy, innovation and national recognition. We take immense pride to be one of the leading engineering colleges in Andhra Pradesh. Before we proceed further, let us begin this occasion with patriotic spirit. I request everyone to kindly rise for the soulful rendering of Vande Mataram. Let this song fill us with pride, unity and inspiration. Thank you. Now it's my privilege to invite our esteemed dignitaries onto the dais. To begin with, I invite a dynamic academic leader, the guiding force behind the Department of EEE, Dr. G. Venkateswarlu Garu, HOD EEE, and the conveyor of this FDE. Sir, we have the honor of welcoming you onto the dais. Next, I take immense pleasure in inviting our distinguished academician and visionary administrator whose leadership continues to inspire excellence, Dr. G. Srinivasulu Garu, Dean of Planning, Development and Accreditations. Sir, we request you to Garu, Assistant Professor, Department of Tripoli, IIT Tirupati. Sir, we are deeply privileged to have you with us today. Kindly bless the dais. To begin the event on this auspicious note, I request all the dignitaries to kindly come forward for lighting the lamp, symbolizing knowledge, wisdom, and inspiration. Sir, HOD's Vice Principal, sir, please. Dignitaries. Now I request Dr. G. Venkateswara Garu, HOD Tripoli, and the convener of this activity to deliver the welcome address and share the objectives of this program.
Respected dignitaries on the dais, Dr. G. Srinivas Garu, Dean Academic Planning R&D, Dr. V. Ganesh Garu, Assistant Professor, IIT Tirupati, HODs of various department, faculty members coming to other college, my dear students, good morning to one and all. A warm welcome to everyone to attending the faculty development program. It is an honor to have you all here from our esteemed speaker and organizer to the dedicated faculty who are committed to professional growth. The main aim of FDP is to enrich the knowledge of faculty through interaction with eminent personality from the industry and academic. The knowledge sharing will improve the teaching learning process to the student and benefit to the society. The faculty development program has been considered a stand-alone education pedagogy in fostering knowledge and professional skill of the faculty. Coming to the FDP point of view, today we are conducting a 6 days FDP program, advancement in electric vehicle, autonomous mobility with renewable energy and smart battery management system. So advance in electric vehicle, autonomous mobility and renewable energy are driven a smart battery management system, which is used AI to optimize charging and extend battery life. Autonomous system uses a sensor and AI for navigation with renewable energy integration. Is crucial for sustainability together. Those technologies are created more efficient connected to sustainable transportation network. But challenges like infrastructure, cost, grid management, etc. So I welcome to all for today's session. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I request Dr. G. Srinivasan Garu, Planning Development Accreditations Dean, for addressing the gathering.
Honorable dignitaries on the dais, Dr. V. Vignesh Garu, Assistant Professor, Department of EEE, IIT Tirupati, Dr. G. Venkatesh Garu, Professor and HOD, Department of EEE, HODs, Deans, faculty, and other students from various colleges and faculty from various colleges. Good morning, all of you. So I would like to welcome all of you to 6-day FDP on advancements in electric vehicles, autonomous mobility with renewable energy and smart battery management. So here you can observe the keywords: renewable energy, battery management. The challenge here is to battery management. The most of the cost concerned to the any electric vehicle is borne by batteries only. So the lot of research is there for the battery technology. The students belongs to ECE, chemical, mechanical and electrical students can work on battery technology. If you are able to reduce the cost of battery, so you can get affordable electric vehicles in our country. So these are all concerned to the sustainable goals. So the UN has given 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. So it is coming under one of this one. So zero carbon emission. So when you are having electric vehicles, it leads to zero carbon emission. So and also one is renewable energy. So it is also zero carbon emission. So this is coming under the Sustainable Development Goals. That is one of the things here you are going to study that one. So here the expert is here. So sir will enlighten you how you are going to proceed to research in this aspect. So sir will enlighten you what are the facilities are there in IIT Tirupati, how you can utilize faculty, maybe students in IIT Tirupati. So I hope today's deliberations will be more helpful for you. I congratulate Department of EEE for organizing this program. I would like to thank Director Sir, Management and Principal Garu for conducting this program. Thank you. Thank you all of you.
Thank you, sir. It's my privilege to introduce our chief guest for today's FDP, Dr. V. Vignesh Garu, Assistant Professor, Department of Electrical Engineering, IIT Tirupati. Dr. Vignesh holds a PhD from IIT Kanpur and BE from PSG College of Technology. He is an expert in power system dynamics, smart grids, cyber security in power grids, distributed computing, remedial action schemes, and transactive energy. At IIT Tirupati, he serves as a faculty in charge of microgrid laboratory under the Center of Excellence in Sustainable Mobility and EV Technologies, guiding both teaching and advanced research. He has 26 research publications, over 400 citations, and an H index of 10, reflecting his strong contributions to modern power system research. We are truly honored to have him with us today. Now I request Dr. V. Vignesh Garu to deliver his inaugural address and share his insights.
Good morning, Professor Srinivas, Professor Venkatesh Garu, HOD, and all my faculty colleagues, students with EE and other departments. On the onset, I would like to thank you all for this wonderful opportunity. So it's my honor to be here today. Anyway, I'll not take much of your time because I'll be talking about few aspects and a few moments from now. But then I would like to thank the organizers for this very wonderful topic on electric vehicles, renewable energy, and basically storage. So, these three words here are not just coincidental. I mean, they are all kind of interlinked. That is one aspect of it. The other aspect is that you can see each of these as both a problem and a solution by itself. So, for example, if you take electric vehicles, if you ask me, is it a solution for green mobility? I would say yes, and it's a qualified yes. Why? Because you have so much of electric vehicles in the country, and then you are charging electric vehicles from coal-based power plants. I wouldn't accept we are really going for a green mobility. Right? I mean, we are burning more coal than what it used to be before. That's one aspect. The second aspect we have to think is our electrical grid infrastructure, is it ready to accommodate such high proliferation of electric vehicles? Do we have enough charging infrastructure? That's the second aspect. Coming to renewable energy again, I'll talk about the problems first. Let me be slightly cynical about it. But then, coming to renewable energy, can we go for 100% renewables? Is it a good solution? 100% renewable looks very good on papers. It's quite exciting. You can say zero carbon and other things, but operational challenges with 100% renewables is absolutely difficult, because you are replacing all rotating, machinery-based generation with power electronic-based generation, and that's going to pose a huge challenge when the way you operate your grid, because we are losing out on inertia, which used to be with our conventional generation. That's one aspect of it. At the feeder level, if you have so much of solar and other things, how do we redefine the protection systems? How do we redefine the over voltage problems? You must have heard about this duck curve, the famous duck curve. When we have so much of solar in the daytime, when the load is very less, what would we do? So there's all kind of challenges again on that. But the solution is also right there, the storage. And electric vehicles also can help us another way. We have something called V2G, vehicle to grid. If you have nicely designed bidirectional converters, one can also think of pumping back the stored energy in the batteries of the vehicle back to the grid at some scale, of course, to mitigate or to help the grid when the grid wants more power. Now, we actually can think everything there to be both a problem, challenge, and also a solution. So I hope and I believe the talks that would be there in another 4-5 days would cover most of these aspects. I would really would like to thank the organizers for this topic. The most important thing with which I would like to conclude is that whatever solutions that we develop should be absolutely economical, and it should suit to our Indian conditions. It's good to have all nice, particles of optimization based, AI based, genetic algorithms, Fox calling optimization, everything. That's all very good. But end of the day, how do we implement it? Is it really going to help our society? Is it going to be cost economical? Is what we have to really think about. The batteries, still I think we have to work on, indigenously developing it. So I let me quickly share an anecdote. So when we got an opportunity to meet Honorable Minister for this road, Shri Nitin Gadkariji, he just told us one thing. Whatever solutions you develop, please make it economical. Please make sure that it suits to our Indian, because we are highly cost sensitive consumers. So German has very good technology for dynamic charging. So he said it's not good to adopt their technology as such for our country, and we have really curated to adopt and adapt, of course, to our Indian conditions. So that's very important. So the solutions that we develop indigenously, we have to do it definitely. We have to do it indigenous development, and that should definitely be cost effective and not just theoretical. So with that, again, I would like to thank the organizers, and I take this opportunity to welcome all of you to our lab, Siemens funded lab on autonomous vehicles and smart infrastructure. So I work on smart microgrid. So there is a smart Siemens funded smart microgrid lab. I welcome all of you with this opportunity, and then I thank you and look forward for the sessions. Thanks and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful words. We will now take a short 10 minutes tea break. Please enjoy the refreshments and return promptly as the next session starts right on the clock. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Good morning and welcome back. So yeah, I think I have about 1 hour. So, but I've been slightly over ambitious. Uh, so I will try to give you a very brief overview of some recent challenges that we are having in the present day context in terms of this market. So before I start, let me just tell you something. Whatever I will be presenting today is just my learning experience for past maybe 10 years as a student, as a researcher in this domain. So this is the tip of an iceberg. So there's a lot more to do in this domain. So what I felt personally was that more we dive deep into it, there is a lot more to do in this area. So there is no dearth of problems in this topic of smart grid, renewable energy, e-mobility, and things. But the only thing is they have to identify right challenge and right approach at the right time. That's it. It's all about that. The second thing is that now this is faculty development program. So I also see, I'm not going to do any typical period of classroom teaching here. So as I said, I'll be just sharing experiences. So you are also welcome to make any suggestions because it's faculty development and I would like this conversation to be a two-way communication so that I can also learn something out of you because I can count myself as a faculty. Okay. That's the second thing. So let's get started. I assume most of you are from power engineering, like students, faculty, power background. So this topic of it has multiple keywords: cyber physical, resilient, and smart grid. So this talk for another 1 hour would be kind of revolving around these three terms: cyber physical, resiliency, smart grids. So this is what we would try to touch upon in this talk, of course, subject to the time. Right. Okay, so of course I will not cover most of the things, but rather I try to uncover a few things in this talk. Um, uh, uh, the way we would structure this is, I thought of giving an overview of the control strategy that's required in today's context of grid. So I'll be mostly talking about the grid perspective. Right? I'm not going to talk more anything about power electronics side or anything about that. So how do you control, manage the grid as the overall objective? So we will focus our discussions around that point. So, okay. So let me demystify what is this smart grid is. Um, the traditional grid, what we are having until recent past or even now, is kind of a centralized power grid, which in which the power flow is kind of unidirectional, right? It just flows from the source to the load, and the power flow pattern is mostly predictable, and there is a unidirectional power flow. That's what it means. And the control response time is mostly human driven, and that would also mean the response time is slightly slower than what it is required. That's the first thing. But what we envision, what we want, and the direction towards which we are moving is something what we
as a smart grid. Of course, the smart grid is a very broad term. If you ask me what is a smart grid, it all depends on how do you define a smart grid. It's like looking at an elephant and asking what is an elephant. Like someone, for an elephant, someone like trunk is an elephant, for someone the type would be an elephant. The way you look at it, the way you can define it. So the smart grid is again a very broad term, but in general, what we would like to have is, or what we are having, the way we are moving now is, the energy sources are mostly distributed. But that means you have, suppose you have a home and you have a very nice roof. You can actually put solar PV onto it. You can consume, you can use the power to power your own loads. You can also power it back, send it back to the grid. So you have at your home, your colony can have it, your campus can have it. So it's mostly distributed now. It's not centralized. That's what I mean. And the generation pattern is mostly unpredictable, and you know that now when you have all this renewable energy like solar, wind, they are intermittent, and of course that's again a challenge that you have to live with. And now the power flow is bidirectional. For example, now you are a consumer. Typically, the power will flow from the grid, to your home. That's a unidirectional way of, that's how the power will flow. But then, if you have a solar and you do not have enough load, there is a possibility that you can also pump it back to the grid. So the power can actually flow in the reverse direction as well. So it is bidirectional. And then the way we manage and the way we control, there is a good amount of cyber aspects into it. The way we communicate with the loads, the way we dispatch, the way we control. A lot of cyber physical integration is happening. And also the smart grid would like to have very faster response. It's not meant to be lousy, but it is meant to be faster, and that's what we would like to have in a smart grid. So these are some of the differences of what it is today and what we would like to have in the near future. Okay, so but then so there are so many issues in this. So this is what I was saying. So we have we have solutions, but those solutions are not without any challenges. So the present day grid, if you ask me what are the recent challenges or what are some practical challenges, which are also some practical research challenges that you should address, is maybe all these things. So renewable energy variability and uncertainty. That's the very first thing. So your topic says that we have to integrate renewable energy to the grid. But I just told you this morning that this renewable energy doesn't come without its own problems. It's highly intermittent. You can't predict it unless until you have storage. There is a lot more issues, operational challenges in having renewables into the system. So I think when I was when I was a school kid, I think in 2000s or mid-90s, late 90s. At least early 2000s, the Tamil Nadu was actually just blessed with a lot of wind, particularly the southern part of Tamil Nadu, where near this Kanyakumari, Tirunelveli side, if they have traveled, you have so much of windmills. But at certain point of time in the year, there's around 4,000, 5,000 megawatt of wind potential, and that drastically comes down. No wind, no power, right? Obviously. So then we were having so much of power deficit. The load was there. So Tamil Nadu and southern India particularly is highly is an area where we have so much of industrial loads and we are power hungry. Normally in the southern states. So Tamil Nadu was having high demand, and then this wind power was literally not there. So people started to do a load shedding. So 10 to 12 this area, 2 to 4 that area, and the ministers were busy in planning the load shedding schedule rather than providing a solution. Those were the days that time. So you see, when we are not able to meet the load demands because of the intermittency, we have to do a load shedding. But that's not the situation anymore. Of course, we have improved a lot. But more than that, this variability can actually give so many problems: voltage fluctuations, frequency fluctuations, And how do you, in case you lose on renewable energy, how do you get power from other sources? How do you ramp up your power? So many challenges. So that's one aspect. The same goes with electric vehicles also. So when you have so much of electric vehicles, so many electric vehicles on road, and everyone charges when they get back home, plug in. We all get back home, let's say 6, 7, and that's exactly when the evening load picks up. If you have seen a typical load curve, the evening peak is about 5 to 7 in the evening, and that's when everyone comes back. And then if you charge your EVs at that time, your peak load on the system would still go higher. How do you manage your grid? And the grid is suddenly stressed. Is your grid infrastructure ready? So because that means your transformer has to have enough capacity, your feeder which is feeding that particular EV charging station has to have enough bandwidth, things like that. So are you ready to do that? So that's again a problem on that particular front. So this is some of the operational constraints I'm talking about. The second problem is when we actually modernize our grid, I said we have more of cyber footprints in the grid because we have smart meters, we have better sensors. Everything is on a communication network, and that communication network can be prone to cyber vulnerabilities. Not necessarily cyber attack, but when you have a communication link, inherently it can have its own delay, it can have its own packet drop. On top of it, you could also have a cyber attack. So if, for example, let's say if you have a cyber attack, and that's one of the most detrimental things that can happen to the power grid. If your enemy country can shut your power network down, what are the economic consequences of that. And it actually occurred in a country like Ukraine sometime back in 2021 or something like that. By 2016, if I remember, December 2016. So they had shut down the entire power grid, and there was huge economic loss. And now that our transportation is mostly electric, metros, trains, if you just cripple your electrical infrastructure, your economy would just collapse. You don't have to necessarily launch a physical terrorist attack. This is one way to do that. Akin to a bio attack, right? So why does this problem come? Because most of data is public, anyone can intrude and they can access. The same with the banking. The typical example is banking sector. So we want to digitalize banking. So now that we also have all this phone pay, Google Pay and all, but then after all this we have also started to have many problems of digital arrest. Someone accessing your bank accounts maliciously, taking out your money and things like that. So when you have a solution, you would also have an auxiliary problem to that. Same with the grid. So we wanted to modernize, digitize the grid, but then the cyber attack would also be a problem. How to deal with that? That's the second issue, the major issue, the research issue. The third is stability constraints. When I say real-time stability, in real time, how do you manage the balance between supply and demand? Supply of electrical energy and demand of electrical energy. When you do not meet this demand, your grid wouldn't be stable. You know that, right? Because when there is a real power imbalance, your frequency would take a toss. And you have a reactive power imbalance in the network, your voltage would be affected. And that's how your grid behaves. So you have to match your supply and demand in real time scale, and that's a huge challenge given your renewable energy and your electric vehicles. So that's again a challenge. And of all these three things, the fourth one is of course the most important one. You have to do everything, you have developed solutions which are cost effective and that are better tailor-made to the society and the country that you live in. For example, in our case, we have to develop a solution that is typical to our own problems in this country. Right. So, our challenges are not kind of exaggerated. So, because by 2030 we want around 500 gigawatts of power from the renewables. Our target probably it's one of the world's largest and most complex power system as well. So what it also means is that controlling your grid, managing grid is not necessarily an academic problem. It is also something that is tied to your energy security. That's something that we have to always think about. So, so when you do not manage your grid properly, given the fact that we are quite ambitious to integrate more and more renewables and more electric vehicles, as is the case, you could have a huge impact. Some of these emphases could be economic. You could not probably, see, the data center is a very, very important thing that is coming up, typical data center, the one that the Amazon Microsoft had put in US, they typically require 400 megawatts of power. And the recent update is that they are building their own power plant to power the data center load. So 400 megawatt of power for one data center is actually like having one entire Hyderabad city, being powered. Just for one data center. Just imagine a new data center comes and you need the power that the entire Hyderabad city requires. That's the scale. How do you power this data center load? That's a major research problem. One solution people are thinking about is a nuclear power plant. But there are problems with that. I don't want to even get into the geopolitical aspects of these nuclear power plants. But then, when you do not have enough stable power, all the disruptions can happen. Your emergency service, critical services could be impacted. And, you could also end up with curtailing renewable energy. So, in one case which I personally worked on was that in France, they had so much of wind that they couldn't even store. The wind was so much that it was overloading their transmission lines, so they wanted to curtail it, to cut it down. So we want to develop control systems that could actually reduce the power that the wind generation system is output. So you end up doing that. So if you actually have a proper control, we could actually seamlessly integrate more and more renewables without challenges. of the data to predict that something of this sort would be happening. The second thing was that the emergency response, once the event has happened, the emergency response was extremely slow. That actually took so much time to restore power. So if you see your emergency response, your early warning system, they were totally uncoordinated. I mean, it was all in bits and pieces. So okay, please go to the next slide. So what one should have, in fact, is that you should have a multi-layered approach. Right? You should have a proper planning. That's the first stage. And then one should have a proper prediction from the data or from the historical data. And that's where your AAML should be judiciously used. So, since that you are all here and I see also students here. Okay. One thing I wanted to tell students is that please use this AA and ML with a pinch of salt. Do not just use it outright literally. So, without the domain knowledge, if you just use AA ML, what many people have seen is that whatever the algorithm that works for stock exchange, they put the same ML algorithm for grid also. It doesn't work. But because stock market prediction is much different from this prediction that I'm talking about. Right? There are differences. Because
same case with the language models. Now they are trying to put language models into every domain. It won't work.
It won't exactly. It won't work. You know why? Why doesn't work? Can anyone tell why doesn't work in this case? Now, if you develop a neural network for predicting a stock price, can I use the same neural network to make this prediction? Or to predict the weather? Or let's take even this example. Can I use the same neural network? Of course, you can say that I'll update the weights accordingly. I'll probably add more hidden layers or whatever, unhidden layers, whatever it is. But then will it work or not?
Our requirement is different than the agnostic.
Okay, that is one thing.
Data set also different with them.
Data, of course, that is obvious. Data requirement and the data set itself is different. That's anyway there. But there is a striking difference.
No, nature of training itself is different.
Nature of training itself is different.
Training is different because that people don't appreciate. See, the tokenization, all are, see, other than the actual DNN, everything is different. The language is the most complex thing human has adapted for maybe thousands of years. So you can't have the same, even if you say ultimate, we may not need that intelligence in this kind of control.
Yes, I agree. On top of that, the domain is completely different.
No, see, that's why I'm saying the domain is broader. I'm saying about the details, training, how it teaches. I think just the data set relevant to that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm just going one step even before. The reason is the physics here, the dynamics here is much different than the dynamics in a stock exchange or a weather prediction model or even within the power system. The dynamics of a load prediction is different from the dynamics of an oscillation prediction. You got what I'm saying. So, your power system has to still obey Kirchhoff's laws, swing equations, power balance equations. You cannot just like that bring in a neural network model which kind of violates all this stuff. So the power system is a power system at the end of the day. It has its own dynamics, it has to respect its own physics. That boundaries we have to really respect. And I'll probably tell you how do you, that is the case, how do you handle ML and power systems? You have to do physics-informed learning. That's the best approach. I think if I have time, I'll touch upon that. You cannot just have a black box neural network model and you cannot expect that to be here. Even the other side of that, let me tell you, you cannot completely automate your control in power systems using A and M. You cannot 100% automate it. I cannot leave my decisions. No, I have a simple question. So if I have an illness, I can only ask for suggestions from a ChatGPT. Now, I will not take medicines what the ChatGPT suggests, right? I will not. Will you? So why? Let's answer this question. So you have some illness. Let's say you have some common cold. Take the simplest example. You type your symptoms in ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever it is, and it's giving you a list of antibiotics. Will you take it?
Not believing.
Huh?
You're not believing it.
Why? Why? I mean, it's well trained model. No? It would have saved thousands of queries.
Even though the accuracy is not 100%.
Exactly.
Subjective nature.
No, subjective nature, not accurate. Why not accurate? I mean, it's say 99.999% accurate. There could be 0.001% false positives or true, whatever it is, false negatives. If you leave the decisions to the AML to maybe to open the relay of transmission line to control a load, I wouldn't do that. That's not a wise decision. I still require a human intervention. But what can AML help me is that, as in your case, in the case of the example that I just gave you, it can probably help you to understand to which physician you should go, whether you should go for an ENT or you should go for a cardiologist or you should go for that decision maybe you can consider. Right? Similarly, you can reduce the search space of the things happening around, whether you should look into this transmission line or this sensor data, where did it go wrong, that much you can.
I have one point, sir. You may not leave the control to the AI output, but the patterns of learning would be, enormous, because it won't cost anything. For example, as you said, the prediction doesn't happen. If we don't understand all the patterns of the problem, that the AI can do it.
Yeah, exactly. So the AI can only assist. AI can only reduce the search space. Exactly, I am trying to make. It can only reduce the possible. We have 100 scenarios. It can reduce it to maybe 5 scenarios. You can look into deeper. That can reduce my response time. That's what I mean.
Especially the unsupervised learning can give new patterns.
Exactly. But not the final control decision. So this is something that I wanted to tell you. But then, of course, automation is I kind of covered. So these are all something that we have to do.
So to answer, why I don't take medicine by the corrective action will be very expensive if I go by AI suggestion. Hope you understand.
Of course, I mean something, there are cases, ChatGPT has killed someone believed, the worst case, someone landed up in a divorce listening to ChatGPT's advice. They had husband and wife had a problem, and this poor guy had texted ChatGPT what's going on, and he recommended divorce. This guy got a divorce. Well, it was in the news. So, hilarious things
First
to
of all,
get.
it is very difficult to choose a dependable doctor who is specialized.
Well, but it's definitely helpful to understand what's going on. That's what. Situational awareness is what it can help. That's what I mean. So what is required is planning, prediction, and control, and we do this literally in everyday life. For example, the recent cyclone that hit this place, which made a land crossing near Kakinada, Machilipatnam, a few weeks ago. How did we better manage it? I believe the government did an commendable job, excellent job. But why it was possible? Because we made a proper prediction. We could track the eye of the cyclone, and since we made a prediction that this would make a landfall at this time at this place, near about that place. All our emergency services were ready, ambulances were ready, policemen, military, everyone was ready, the traffic was blocked, the fishermen were not allowed into the sea. So the casualties were reduced. So, but then when the cyclone actually did make a landfall, we then actually did a real-time management of the system. So we do make a planning. We mobilize our resources, we make a prediction, and then in the real time, when the actual event occurs, that's not real time control. We do some real time operations to mitigate the negative impacts of that particular catastrophic event. So the same will hold good for your power system. So you should actually first plan your resources first. Whatever. For example, if you want to have more generation, you should have more generation in place, or more reactive power resources. You just mobilize them. And then, this happens over days. You just see the time frame.
This is on a scale of days. This happens over the time frame of minutes. I'm just talking about the context of power systems. This could be different for different domains, but let me talk about power systems. So we keep doing this for hours or days. When it comes to prediction, so we get all this voltage information, current frequency information. So within this, we can say that in the next 15th minute, there could be a outage or this equipment might fail. That prediction can be definitely made. Because we have, as I said, we have no depth of data. We have so much data. We have big data problem in fact. So, and then if you are ready with that particular situation, and I am fully equipped, I know that this is going to be the event, and these would be the consequences. I'll be fully equipped, ready. When that actual event occurs, which most probably would be if your prediction model is right, then you can employ the real-time control based on the planning that you did to mitigate the event. And this happens in seconds. Right? So your planning, prediction, control, and the whole scheme actually is having different time scales. Right? That's something that.
What is your resilience model you talked about? In spite of all this, suppose in the worst case, the blackout happens.
Emergency services. No, the resilience is also depends on. Let me first define what is resilience. Resilience is ability of the, in this case, power grid, to come back to its capacity, its nominal capacity, or at least to an extent of its nominal capacity after a major and rare event. Right. I don't talk about resiliency for frequently occurring and a minor impact events. Right. See, every day some tree would be falling. I don't talk about resiliency there. I'm talking about resiliency, a huge storm or huge hurricane, and is going to sweep out so much of poles and so much of transmission line distribution feeders. Will my power network, after I adopt the emergency control actions, will it be able to reach part of its full capacity? That way I define my resilience. Rare but high impact events. Cyber attack is one of them.
So the reason why I asked, like in other domains, for example, you take avionics, you have redundant systems. It's almost impossible to have a redundant system in case of.
No, I don't know if time would permit, and there is, we do have redundant, we do have hot standby, cold standby systems. We do have distributed systems. We don't let one controller take the complete decisions. We distribute the controllers. Even if one controller fails, the multiple controllers can actually take the failed controller's job. The system will be up and running.
No, that is the control side. But looking at the nature of the power, which is a resource, you can't have a redundant when all this, for example, when the demand and supply problem comes, that's ultimate.
No. So one thing I'll tell you, the resiliency need not be made only with redundant systems. The way you control, way you manage, you can build resiliencies anywhere. So what people normally think is if I have a backup, if I have another transmission line, if I have a parallel distribution feeder, I build a resilience. Not necessarily, because those are capital intensive. But if I have a mechanism in which I build, I implement the whole resiliency as part of my control itself, right? That can also prevent.
Yeah,
That's the operation resilience.
Yes, prediction should be.
Exactly, you do. I mean, ultimately it would point out to one of these three aspects that I just showed. Okay, good. So, let me quickly show you one scenario in which, next slide. One situation in which what has actually happened, what would have been done in this case. And then we'll move on to one planning study because we have another 30 minutes or so. So, I don't have time class analysis because I have a train at 12:15, so I have to get back. So finish my talk at 12:30. But otherwise, I'm happy to talk about that.
Some event occurred and the generation got tripped. And you see the frequency drop. So you might ask why should the frequency drop when the generation fails? Because that's how the power system behaves. When you have more demand than the generation, more demand than the supply, the frequency, the rotors of the generators would decelerate, so the frequency would drop. That's how the swing equation. That's what a swing equation tells you what you learn in your Boston dynamics. Your frequency dropped, and then it's trying to come back, and of course, then your governors and then other control systems try to kick in. But then, of course, to reach this, what people did was that your generation went down, your load is still there. What is one solution to match the generation and the load? One obvious solution. One brutal solution. Cut down the load also. Generation went down, bring on load also down. That's what we call load shedding. Unfortunately, that's the last resort we are supposed to do as power engineers, but we keep doing it. Take it for granted, because in other countries, if you shut down the load, there is heavy penalty for the supply providers. We don't care. We are used for 12 hours of power cut and we are happy about it.
Even if you don't have the supply, you monthly payment.
Yeah, no, on a lighter note, I'll tell you. So we call about all this electrification and other things. So if there is a transformer in a village, people call that village to electrify. If there is the question is whether the transformer is energized and there are feeders to home, and are the house getting really the power supply is not different. You put a transformer at a village, the village is electrified. They count on it. I read recently, a year ago, I read in newspaper. There was a wedding ceremony going on, and there was only daughter in the family, and she was very attached to the family. So, as a dowry, and this girl's family knew that the place where this girl would be married would be having frequent power cuts. So, as a dowry, what they did, they stole this transformer and they gifted as a dowry to the bride. Two things, we are so obsessed with dowry, unfortunately. And then, second thing is that they wanted to make sure that the daughter of the family gets power even when she. But anyway, so what I'm telling you is that's how it works. So power shutdown is something that you have to do the least. It's very expensive. Let's see what could have happened. Okay. Can you few slides after that? I think I have given the solution. Yeah, just one slide. Okay. So this is the timeline. So 6:30 the generator had tripped, and then 15 seconds later the frequency has gone down to 48.2. And then at around another 45 seconds the response, the so-called load shedding response began. And then by 5 minutes the frequency is kind of getting close to 50. But in the whole process, around 3 million customers lost power. End of the story. Right? But here, what you could have done is, just before, for example, if you have been getting the data from the generator and other things, or let's assume that this was based on suppose someone had maliciously entered the system and they just opened the generator breaker, since it's cyber attack. We don't know why the generator failed. But let's assume that it was because of a cyber attack. So someone cannot, just like that, intrude into your system and do a cyber attack, right? I mean, you should first step into your network, all your routers and all your, firewall detection system should be giving you a warning, and there should have been so much of footprints and data in your system that can be used as a prediction model. So let's assume that you had so much of violations of firewall systems. Your network manager can give you some unknown IP has entered into your network, and that IP is totally not in your domain. That could have been done before this. Then it gives you a clue that okay, someone is trying to hack my generator. Let me be better. But what could have been the planning? Let's say I also give an example. Suppose you have a battery energy storage system, ready. So if this generator fails, obviously you cannot ask another coal or thermal power plant to provide that power, because that power itself will take 2 hours to come online, because it has a boiler and other mechanical systems. And it's not that easy to, because the base power thermal plant, base power. So the one fastest way is to use a pump storage. Let's assume that you can use a pump storage or even a battery storage, hypothetically.
suppose if you had kept that ready, in case if this generator fails, you are ready to switch on this discharge battery to power the customers. Let's say that was your planning before. And then the prediction was to detect the cyber attack using an IP detection, intrusion detection system. Let's say you can use ML or anything to do that. And then the actual event exactly occurs at the same time. Irrespective of what you do, what you don't do, this was the destiny that's going to happen. That has happened. And then 6:30, another 5 seconds, because the control system of the energy storage will see that the frequency is dropping down, which means that there is a power deficit. There is a deficit between generation and the load, so it means that it has to discharge. So it starts to react. And then another, it was so fast that within 10 seconds the frequency stabilized to 49.8. But you don't have to fully deploy the BESS, and you know that BESS has operated. You have better time to use other control systems like government control or whatever. Or the worst case, even if you do the load shedding, you will not be cutting power to 33 million people. No, maybe 10,000 people if you even cut the power, that's okay. You can cut the power to maybe some cinema halls or something which is totally not required at 6:30 in the morning, unless some heroes movie is being launched at morning, so you don't have. So you can prioritize your loads, and you can cut non-necessary loads at that time, so that 3 million people wouldn't have not lost power. So this is how all this prediction, planning, and the real-time operation would definitely help you to stabilize your grid back. Right. So, but this is most easy than said. But question is, how do we plan? How do we predict? How do we operate in real time? So, in fact, I have kept case studies for all the three. But let me quickly walk through just a planning strategy. Maybe so we quickly do that next week. Okay. And I have just skipped through slides. The one study that we will make is what we call it as a contingency analysis. This term is not really new for our engineers here, because we have been doing this for ages. Because if you have done a course on power system operation control, if you have happened to teach that course, we teach what happens if you take out one line, what happens if you take the generator, what is its effect on voltage, what is its effect on this transmission and loading. So what we do is we simulate the effect of contingency, and we rank the contingency by the order of the severity. And that's what we do. Right? We have all done that. So that is for a transmission line, for a generator outage, something like that. For example, if the most important transmission line fails in your system, what is the system-wide impact? And if you know that if that transmission actually goes out, if you do that planning, you would know how to react, because you know the impact. So that is on the physical system, and that's well studied. But the question is, how do we do that for a cyber system? Now, the reason is the cyber system and the physical system are so well interconnected that if anything goes bad on the cyber system, it has an immediate impact on your physical. So, for in the example that I gave you, someone tries to hack. He doesn't go to really open a generator physically. If he just enters the logical node of which controls the generator, he just, for example, there is a relay which controls the breaker of the generator. The relay has a software, and if you give that control open command from the software, sitting at a remote location, you can open the generator. Right? And if you, in fact, the generator indeed gets open, what is the effect? It just the frequency going down, 3 million people losing power. So that is the aim now. So if a cyber node or cyber system fails, how does it affect your power system? That's the goal of the study. How do you study that? That's the problem that we have taken. There are many aspects of that. So first of all, you should understand what are the cyber failures that can happen. It can be cyber attack. It can be a bad data.
or it can be a packet loss, it can be a delay, anything. Anything of this happens would have an effect on the physical grid. That's for sure. So we should probably list all these contingencies.
One more thing. Worst case, it should be a system failure. For example, the computing system itself can go for a task. They are highly failure. So one understanding here, as you like to say, the reaction time is very fast. And also the impact analysis you have to do it at scales.
Yeah.
And you have good model to take.
Exactly. So, no, there's various aspects of it. First of all, you should know how to model this, how to do the study, what is the mathematical model needed, how to analyze the impact, how to order them according to the severity.
So, but I think no, can you maintain silence if you are not interested, please get out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So what you mean? Can't we get the knowledge because cyber security is now well established in IT? Maybe the impact and the reaction, the cost especially may be different. It is a common problem. Like now cyber security is so tough. You are talking about the network. Actually there are two regions. One is the top layers, application, data presentation layers, very, very intelligent. Actually these are old days where you do IP MAC as firewall play. Actually, we have in our campus now Juniper networks.
Yeah.
AI based. Actually, they focus on more on this networking. But the reality is, cyber security altogether is a more intelligent field.
Yes, but
But you can have learning. What I mean, you can get the nature of the attacks. You can translate to the typical problems what you have.
that is just one part of the problem. And what I'm telling you is in fact, the most interesting part of the problem is to quantify the effect on the physical
Yeah,
system.
exactly. That's why impact analysis.
The impact analysis, ordering the severity. To do all these things, you need a model. Model of the cyber system, the model of the physical system. The most important is that how these two things are connected.
Yes.
What is the connecting model? No, it's very easy to simulate an independent cyber system. It's very easy, even more easy to simulate an independent physical power system. Independently, can simulate both of them. You have things like NS3, you have things like here MATLAB or even PSSC or PowerPoint, whatever it is.
Can't be integrated.
That integration, if you make, it has not been that easy, because one major challenge is both of them have heterogeneous time scales. Because these power systems will operate at one time scale, and the cyber system is very fast.
Yes, that's right.
How do you synchronize? Right. That's one. See, more importantly, the power system is a continuous system, mathematically. It's mathematically. But cyber system is a discrete time system, a discrete system. It's very difficult to view it as a continuous time system.
No, not only that, they are linear systems as well.
No, power system is inherently non-linear. Power system is inherently non-linear. We linearize it because of our convenience. No, because the linearization is one gimmick that we play, but that's only for a mathematical convenience. But the original power system is highly non-linear. So how do you handle it mathematically? How do you handle it? Techniques. All those aspects are there. So once you all do this, you have to build a test bed which can test all these things. And I will also tell you the other important challenge that we faced was to simulate a large set of contingents. See, there are thousands of computing nodes, thousands of communication links, hundreds at least, if I may not even exaggerate. You have to take out each node and each link and then see the effect on the physical system. You have to really process like thousands of cases. And you could have multiple of these occurring. For example, this node failed, parallelly there was a delay in the system. Sky is the limit. How do you handle so many cases with your limited computing capacity with minimal computational burden? That's again a challenge. Because it's not that we are simulating one contingency. We are not just taking one node. We are not just taking one communication link.
there could be thousands of logical nodes, thousands of routers, hundreds of delay patterns. Each of that you have to see the impact, you have to take them out, see the impact, rank them. How do you handle this computational complexity mathematically? That's a research problem. In fact. How do you do all these things with your available computational resource? How do you do them faster? See, here I don't really look for an accuracy. I am not really very care if the voltage goes to 220 kV or 220.5. I don't care. But what I need is an assessment of the impact. The impact assessment, if I even go wrong by 10%, I'm okay. Even if I have overestimate of the impact, I'm still okay. So I can afford to lose little bit of accuracy, but most importantly, I have to fasten up I have to speed up my algorithm. That has been our goal. So I will also tell you. And we have been even doing this for our physical contingents because we don't use our full scale neutral power flow in contingency analysis. You might have noticed that. We typically use DC power flow or fast decoupled because you don't have to invert your Jacobian at every iteration. But we know that they are not as accurate as full scale Jacobian. Right? So, okay, these are all some important things that can happen. So you can have a communication failure, you can have a data loss from a sensor, we use phasor measurement unit as a sensor. You can have network outages. In terms of cyber attack, you can have someone inject malicious false data, or there could be a malware attack. Anything in the surface could happen. Okay, no, why it is coming to beginning? Yeah, next slide. Okay, yeah. So now the problem is the physical content is well addressed. So we have to address the cyber condition analysis, and then the critical blind spot is this link between cyber and the physical layer, which needs to be carefully monitored. In the context of a smart grid, I am not telling it's true for any cyber physical system. Smart grid is a very unique cyber physical system in its own ways. So there were real world examples. You can actually go through this, and I'm going to spend much time. Right? Then of course we have simulated all this kind of attacks. So we have simulated a sensor failure. For example, if you lose a sensor, what can happen is it can the data from the sensor will get lost. So you may not be able to make any decision at all. So as if you are losing someone is losing their eyesight. So sensors are like eyes of the control. There is a communication attack. You could end up doing wrong decisions because the data wouldn't reach on time. That's possible. I'm just giving you certain example. And the coordinated attacks are even more critical because they can give cascading effects. So one thing is that, as I told you, for example, you have 50 cyber components, you approximately have 10 or 15 scenarios to kind of handle. And that's the computational burden that we are talking about. I'll not go more than this. But of course, how do you model your cyber system? You have graph theory based models, and you have analytical models in which you fully model your physical and cyber system using full blown dynamics. And then you can also go for probabilistic models or simulation models. But then this has been based on the graph theory based models because this has been found to be most time efficient. Because the graph, if you have, you can actually see all this attacks and everything as in terms of matrix manipulations. So then the way the whole thing has flown done is that we just have to do a model. We just have modeled this physical system, cyber system, their interdependencies. Then we have centralized systems, in which, and you talked about having decentralized systems when you have multiple controllers to get better resiliency. That's there. And then, of course, the same approach you can extend from static to a dynamic system because power system is inherently dynamic. So, in the first part of the study, we had only handled static study. The later part, it has been extended to the dynamic.
I have one common thing, thought of physics, like you have inertia in case of real systems, can't you take that as an advantage? No, time advantage. Because it's
Yeah, exactly. No, that's in fact I told you this morning. That's the whole point. We can never go for 100% penetration because when the generation and the load impact, for example, in this case, the generation failed and the load was in excess, say. So that intermediate for some time, that transient imbalance can be met by the kinetic energy stored in the rotor.
yes, exactly.
So that's what is happening in the conventional system. So that's why the rotor slows down and so the frequency is coming back. So the first line of defense comes from the rotor itself. That is not there with the renewable energy. Because it's mostly power electronic based. Power electronic converters do not have inertia. And the frequency collapses much faster than, and it would even plunge more deeper. The frequency drop would be even more deeper in the case of renewables. That's a major challenge. So in that way, what we do is we emulate the inertia using control systems, or we simply use this synchronous motors that we running to give we call virtual inertia, or we emulate inertia using control systems. So that's there.
So basic to I think electrical power system.
That's how it's being addressed, but that's not a very successful implementation.
No, it's not.
Not all the solutions, of course. So the countries which had wanted to go for 100% like Germany, they are now trying to bring back their nuclear power. They regret for having destroyed their nuclear power plant. That's what I heard recently. So it's always good to have some rotating mass-based clients.
I have one thought. Have you heard about radio thermal generators? They are used in
I have no.
something like few kgs. They can supply something 100 kilowatts for 100 years.
I have no clue about that, so I don't want to comment on it because I am not very sure.
No, it's very thought-provoking. I'm just thinking,
Yeah, one can try that. So, of course, then whatever solution that you develop, we have to make it scalable. Your algorithm can work better for a smaller system, but then it has to work even for a large system. That's something that everyone has to action. Yeah, this is the model that we had made. I think I have to probably close another 5 minutes. So this is modeled as a graph. This is also modeled as a graph. So what I would like to tell you is we would take one out of all these things and see what is its effect on the system. How much time I have? 5 minutes. Oh, okay. Then which means I should give concluding remarks. Oh my God. Okay. So let me conclude. The whole problem of doing this would be managed mathematically using these matrices. So whatever the whole simulations, I can directly tell you the results. I wanted to show you the math part of it, but students often get bored with mathematics, so anyone gets bored with mathematics for that matter. So and then using matrices and then the interlinks and other. Of course, I'll not go into the math part of it. So, but of course, math is very interesting. But then what I would like to tell you is by doing that, the simulation time we observe to have to be reduced by at least 10 times than the conventional. So the accuracy we are lost only by 5%. And as I said, we don't look for accuracies much. So can I go for the last slide? I mean, just jump into the last slide, where I would just need to make a concluding remarks. I wish I had talked more, but then. Okay, of course I'll come back sometime later, of course, if you have places. Call me. Otherwise, you are welcome to visit our lab. Okay, yeah, this is what I want to talk about. Let me conclude. So the future research would be will be a happy marriage of all these. That's what I would definitely like to say, because your renewables is a problem. Renewable electric vehicles, let's say, let them put together. And with this, you have challenges and you want your control to be resilient. You still want the renewables to be there, electric vehicles to be there, but you also want the system to be resilient for any type of, so resilient could be cyber resilience, could be weather resilient, could be any resilience. So you want that to be resilient. How do you do that? You need better control. The better control in the sense you need better planning, better prediction, and better operational strategies. And then all of them have to be integrated and most importantly they are adaptable for our own grid. That's what I told you. And this control can be AI assisted or AI driven, but not completely AI automated. And that's what I told you about. And while you do this, what is this, the actual solution in what form it is going to come? It is going to come in terms of storage. Because without storage, it's near impossible to manage a grid with a large renewable generation. But I'm not telling you what type of storage, not necessarily electrochemical storage. It could be a pump storage, it could be flywheel, it could be molten salt, whatever, thermal storage, whatever it is, hydrogen storage, whatever it is. But you need storage in one form or the other. So the future power grid would have all these components. There is intersection of all these things. That's how the grid has to meet its own challenges. And of course, the very important thing is that when you do the storage, people talk about this grid forming inverters, because you will be starting to having islanded microgrids and all. Then in that case, how do you manage all this voltage and frequency? It's all about grid forming inverters. So I would probably request you to please look into these aspects in your research. That's been my personal view. I mean, you could also come up with your own way of looking at it. But given this context, I feel this is how it should be looked on from my last one. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I think I want to thank. Let's go from being reactive to being proactive in terms of maintaining the grid. With that note, probably will summarize this 1 hour talk. And then this is our lab. We are all going to take the opportunity to welcome all of you. I'll also thank the organizers, HOD and the administration for this opportunity. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'll see you another. Okay, any questions? I didn't give you a chance to ask. Anyone? Any questions? Thanks. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful session. It was truly informative. Now I request Deputy HOD, sir, G. Venkateswara garu, and Vice Principal Hasrataya, sir, and the EC HOD, sir, Murli, sir, please come forward for the felicitation of today's chief guest.
Good morning to everyone present here. On behalf of the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, Naran Engineering College, Kerala, I am truly honored to deliver the vote of thanks for this FDP. First and foremost, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished resource person, Dr. Vignesh Sir, Assistant Professor of IIT Tirupati, for sharing their valuable expertise. I sincerely thank our management, Principal Sir, Dean of Research Planning and Accreditation, our HOD Sir, in providing their constant encouragement and guidance and support in successfully organizing this FDP. My thanks to all the faculty participants for enthusiastic involvement and active engagement throughout the session. Once again, thank you all for your presence and participation. We look forward to an engaging and enriching FDP in the upcoming days. Have a wonderful day and a productive learning experience. Thank you. I request all of you to stand for national anthem.
तब जय